So after the Razorback track, we drove down through, pretty much comes out at Billwheeler. So went to Billwheeler, ended up having just burger and hot chips and a drink. Just it was good to have a proper meal cooked instead of us having to cook it. And then we drove through like Banana and all that, and we ended up camping. We're about 10 kilometers north of the Carnarvon turnoff. So it's just like a gravel pit that I found on Wikicamps. It was free. When you turn off the highway into Carnarvon, it's about 40 kilometers until you reach the actual walking tracks. And just keep an eye out for roos, because as you can see, there's a lot of dry long grass that they blend into very well. And one did end up jumping out in front of me, and I clipped the back end of it. But luckily there was no damage to my car or the roo. And then there was also another World War II plane crash wreck that they had on display just on the left as you're going into Carnarvon, which is, surprisingly enough, it also left from Darwin headed towards Brisbane. Carnarvon Gorge has many different hikes that you can go on, but I decided to go on the longest day hike that they have, which is roughly around about 22 kilometers. I did end up walking a little bit more because we ended up doing more than that, but pretty much we started at the furthest point away and worked our way back. So started off first of all going to the Big Bend. And as you can see, there is a lot of creek crossings that we had to go over. So I think between the start point and to get to Big Bend, there was over 17 creek crossings we had to go over. So that's 17 there and 17 back. So be prepared for a couple of wobbly rocks. Also bring some hiking poles so you have a little bit more stability, because there's sometimes that you stand on a rock and it wobbles underneath your foot and you get a little bit unsteady. But you know, luckily we didn't have any mishaps on this trip and I didn't fall into the water. After reaching the Big Bend, went to Cathedral Caves, Bawunda Gorge, the Art Gallery, Wards Canyon, the Amphitheatre, Moss Gardens, and then back to the beginning of the hiking trail, which ended up being a little bit more than that 22 kilometers that it says it is. But there's many different hikes that you can go on, ranging from 1 kilometer to 7 kilometers to 14 kilometers, or this 22 kilometer one. It's not as if there's only just one hike to go on. There's many different ones that you can see, and I think they also have a 90 something kilometer hike that goes over a couple of days, that goes around the whole gorge, which would be pretty cool to do one day, but I don't quite have the equipment for an overnight camping hike. I haven't been to Carnarvon Gorge since I was 12, which is probably the most eventful camping trip I've ever been on and probably will ever be on. So I'll try to keep it nice and simple and quick for you guys, but pretty much our Year 7 camp was meant for Carnarvon Gorge, and it was supposed to be a 4-day camping trip. And so we got to Carnarvon, no worries whatsoever, did 1-day hike, and then that night ended up just being torrential rain. It's like the most amount of rain the area had seen in quite a while, and there was a warning put out saying all the roads would flood. So we ended up packing up all of our tents to head out of Carnarvon. And then while we were going out of Carnarvon, there ended up being a few like causeways / creek crossings we had to go through. Like, keeping in mind they weren't creek crossings when we were going over, it's just they'd flooded over a little bit, but it was enough to go past on the bus. And then we eventually got to one creek crossing, which was over 1.5 meters deep. Like, it was well too deep for a bus to go through. So we had to turn around, and keeping in mind, this was before there was bitumen road coming into Carnarvon Gorge. So after all this massive rain downfall, it just turned into a big sloppy mess. And one of the school buses ended up getting bogged turning around. It was one that was carrying like a trailer. And anyway, that was my first experience with, a vehicle being bogged. The first bus then had to, snatch the second bus out with a snatch strap, which actually ended up snapping as well. So anything that could have gone wrong pretty much went wrong this day. And then by that whole stuff around of trying to get the bus unbogged and all that, the original creek crossings we'd been over had then flooded over again to about 1 meter deep or so. So it was impossible for us to pass. So we were stuck between 2 creek crossings in the middle of nowhere, just on a bit of muddy dirt. And we had to sleep on the bus for, I can't remember if it was 2 nights or 3 nights. So I'm going to just say it was 3 days and 2 nights. No running water, no toilets, no food. Like, we barely had any food. And any food that we did have, I'm pretty sure we needed like a barbecue to cook, but we didn't have any barbecues on the buses. Like, we were using what was at the camping grounds. So yeah, we had no food for a few days, very minimal water, and it ended up being a very eventful time. And then even then, the creek crossing on the Carnarvon side ended up dropping after that third day, so we were able to head back to Carnarvon, spend a night there, and then I think after that everything had sort of settled down and we were able to finally make it back to Roma on the sunny coast. But yeah, pretty much anything that could have gone wrong went wrong. It definitely wasn't ideal for a bunch of 12-year-olds to be stuck out in the middle of whoop whoop with mud and, you know, no water, no toilets, no nothing, sleeping on the buses because we couldn't get our tents out. But yeah, it was definitely a memorable time. Let me know below in the comments your most interesting camping story that you have. I'd be interested to know if anyone's been in a similar situation before where anything that could have gone wrong went wrong. But, you know, it honestly made for one of the most fun camping trips I've ever been on. And, you know, I wouldn't change it for anything. So it was pretty cool to come back to Carnarvon and actually have a good experience. The hike was amazing. The temperature was really good. It was nice and cool in the trees and there was a bit of a breeze coming. But yeah, this time going to Carnarvon was definitely a win compared to back in 2012. No, I don't remember one. The last crossing. Oh my gosh. After 8 hours and 20 minutes. Whew. At least this is a nice easy one to cross. 20 kilometers later, civilization. And then another 250 meters to the car. Oh, hallelujah. We made it. And it's just starting to get dark. Go, Darren. Hallelujah. Oh. Civilization. We were lucky enough to snag a spot at the Big Four camping grounds. I didn't book in advance. We actually just rocked up on the day before we started the hike and just asked, oh, do you guys have any spare spots? Which they did, and it was a pretty cool little campground. They have a communal campfire and plenty of barbecues and stuff, and they have a nice little walk around the campground too where you can spot wild platypuses. So we did actually see one. I just wasn't able to get it on film. But they have that, and also another hike where you can see like the cliff faces of the gorge, which is pretty cool. And the only campgrounds at Carnarvon Gorge are pretty much the Sandstone Point and the Big Four. The other ones are cabin camping, not like ones that you can just pull up in your tent or caravan. And then, so we ended up spending the night there, woke up pretty early in the morning to do the Mickey Creek hike, which is a nice short one. It's only 3 kilometers return. Oh my gosh, there is like a little ladder up here. After checking out Mickey Creek and the rock pools, decided to hit the road so that we could find another free campground. And along the way we stopped at Injune, which had this train and the old ticket booth that you can go have a look around. So that was cool. We had lunch there, and then we ended up stopping off at Miles, where I made some little feathered friends. You guys know how much I love my ducks, and geese are close enough to ducks, so I had a very entertaining afternoon feeding the geese, and they were running around. They weren't happy that I was feeding some of them. But yeah, it was a nice little spot. It was free camping. It was on the side of the highway, but it was still quite quiet. Like, it wasn't too noisy from all the trucks. And then we hit the road pretty early in the morning to make the way back to Sunny Coast, and this is what my car looked like at the end of the trip. I didn't go through any mud or anything like that. It was mainly just dirt and about 1 million bugs. There were so many bugs in my car. I don't know how many times I've tried cleaning my car now. I think I'm up to 3 times, and I still haven't got rid of all the bugs that have collected on my bull bar and my roof rack and all that.